This Wednesday, April 5th through April 13th, is the celebration of Passover for members of the Jewish faith. Today, I'm very pleased to welcome back to talk with us Dan Cardonic, who is the Executive Director of the Scranton Jewish Community Center. Dan, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I'm sure you're very busy preparing for the holiday to talk with us about the significance of Passover. So tell our viewers who may not be familiar with the story what Passover signifies.
Passover is the 8-day holiday that marks the Jewish journey from enslavement to freedom as the Israelites departed ancient Egypt. It comes straight from the Torah, which is Jewish law, where we're commanded to retell the story of this Jewish exodus from Egypt after God unleashed a series of plagues on the Egyptians. And the Jews observe Passover with many rituals, and it's a big family holiday. We'll come together and we'll have a Seder. Seder is the Hebrew word for order. That's what that means. And during a Seder, we retell the story with symbols that are put on a Seder plate. There's 6 items total. And a couple examples include bitter herbs, where we'll use sort of horseradish, which kind of represents the bitterness of slavery. And then there's parsley that we'll also dip in salt water that represents the tears of slaves. So we retell the story not only by the symbolism on the Seder plate, but also using a text called a Haggadah. Usually Haggadah is a book that'll be at everybody's Seder plate and will be referred to as we go through the order of the Seder. Another important tradition is that we remove kind of all leavened foods before the holiday and kind of abstain from them during the 8 days. And these are primarily grains. And in substitution, we eat a flattened, unrisen bread called matzah. It's like a real, kind of like a flat cracker. And the symbolism is that the Jews were in such a rush to leave Egypt that they didn't have time for their bread to rise, so they ate unleavened bread. So while we remember the bitterness of slavery during Passover, Passover is also a joyous holiday as we celebrate our freedom. And it's symbolic to recline on the holiday, at the Seder table, and that kind of represents freedom. And then during the Seder, we'll drink 4 cups of wine, which represents our redemption. Here at the JCC, we don't do any major events during Passover because we look at it more as a very family-oriented holiday, an opportunity for us to close for the holy days. There are 4 days that are considered the holiest. The first 2 and last 2 days of Passover are considered the holiest, and we close, and it gives an opportunity for our staff and our community to be together with family and to enjoy the holiday and to be together. And what we will do, leading up to Passover and on the days in which during Passover when we're open, is we may do a lot of education about the holiday. So, for example, in our preschool at the JCC, we will do something special called a chocolate Seder. And the kids will learn about the holiday of Passover and participate in an actual Seder, but it involves different kinds of chocolate and candy to be the symbolism for the Passover Seder instead of the actual regular symbolism that we use for the holiday. So we relate the candy and to in different ways, which is kind of unique and fun.
We also wanted to mention that you do have an upcoming event on April 17th, Monday, April 17th. So tell us about that as well.
It's our annual Yom HaShoah event, which is a Holocaust remembrance event. Yom HaShoah is Israel's established day to remember the 6 million Jews who perished in the Holocaust. And we do a remembrance event here. We will be having a service, a memorial service, as well as a featured speaker and a few other participants in the actual event itself that will help. We'll hear some stories from families of survivors, and we'll also hear from students on what the Holocaust means to them and what their perspectives are on anti-Semitism. One of the main goals of Holocaust education is really to educate our community in order to combat anti-Semitism, to bring awareness to history, to this tragedy, so that we can prevent it from ever happening again. If you look at the national studies right now on Holocaust education, they're a bit disturbing on how the world, is not fully educated on what happened during World War II, and with survivors, uh, dying off, it leaves the offspring of these survivors and future generations to tell their stories so that the world is educated and that the world doesn't ever forget. And we will be having that event here on April 17th. It'll be at 6:30 p.m. In our JCC auditorium. It is completely open to the entire community. We invite the whole community to come out to us to not only remember but to learn, and to help remember the victims of the Holocaust, and so that they will be able to pass on some of this education to their friends and family.